Okay.
So the question came up, can we import and export? Yes, we can export rig models. You can touch up the rigging and preview it before you go out. I'll spare you that. What I'm doing now is I'm going to import that robot that Kupo showed. I'm going to show you the robot that Kupo showed with the dancing motion capture animation here in Unity. So I just loaded up the Collada file as an asset, and I'm going to drag and drop the robot in the scene here, and then
this is a high polygon object too.
Yeah.
It's not designed for a game.
Right. So that is a little bit of a caveat. One thing that is still on our roadmap is to really have some sophisticated polygon reduction on export. If you pick and choose carefully, you will find models that are applicable out of the box for a game environment. But especially if you're targeting mobile, then you really have to be careful with your budget, and you want to have a more powerful export path going forward where you have more control over measure resolution.
Well, if you're going to use Poser as essentially an animation stop in your pipeline, then you'll be creating your own models and bringing them into Poser that will be the appropriate resolution for your game.
Right.
Modify them and then bring them through in Unity.
If you go all the way, then you have complete control.
Right. Especially FBX or Collada, once you have that whole round trip and working, you just bring in whatever you model in the FBX form.
Right.
But if you're doing a realistic first-person shooter, you may want to use Poser content and have that accurate human that's modifiable with like facial photo mapping, etc.
Well, you can export Poser content to Collada and like 3DS and stuff like that, with UVs associated and all that maps. So that you can take the Poser data, bring it into Maya or Modo, tweak, modify whatever you need to do, then go back into Poser, do your animation, and go
You
back.
can reattach the rig if you wanted to change the model.
Right.
That's great stuff.
We actually have ways of transferring even spatial mapping, so the painted away map, we can, if it's close in space, we can project it back onto the model.
So yeah, if you have subtle variations of the same model over and over again, there's a lot of retargeting mapping possible to reutilize your rigs and your animation. So at first this came in static. If I go to game mode, nothing happens here. But if I select the animation clip that also was contained in that file, then you can see there's the animation clip again. So I can just drag and drop that onto the robot here, and if I hit play again, there is the dancing.
You didn't have to modify that in the import?
Nope.
Because usually we have to set it to standard mode or something. Because the new, is this 4.0?
This 4.3. Yep.
You weren't using Poser spins. Just saying.
So yes, that was pretty much the
That's great.
extent of the demo. Similar story as before with Enemy Studio. There's a lot of good existing pathway already, but we're trying to build out a little further and make it more specifically targeted to the Unity world, so that this incredibly rich world of content that we've already described, that really becomes accessible. Right now it is, but with a few little caveats.
So what was your how did you go from Poser to Unity? What were your steps there?
I basically, in Poser, does everyone need to go, or do you want to see that real quick?
I think it's a really excellent way to quickly prototype a game with
show it early.
Okay.
Because my partner Graham will take artwork from all over the web and code his own, game. He'll be using other people's artwork all over the place just to proto the thing, and then he'll hand me all that stuff, and then I have to go and do all the artwork.
That's a good point, actually. I mean, Poser traditionally, oftentimes, is used at the previs and animatic stage, right? For TV shows and for feature-length film. So in essence, what you're describing is the same model except for a game.
Same concept, right.
You grab stuff out of the box that is pre-made.
He knows what he wants.
And then you can...
Monthly character, game character.
Yep.
Okay, I want him to do this.
And those variations are in there, right? You can oftentimes actually switch between different body types just by cycling through the morphs in Poser.
Right. There's a whole like body morphing thing where you get like shoulders larger, hips wider.
Yeah,
Right.
muscular, pregnant,
Right.
fat, skinny, big morphological changes for the whole body.
Let me see if I can actually find the file that,
Are you looking for your BBH file, Louis?
yeah.
We do so everything.
There's like a billion things underneath the test for No, I do the same thing.
Well, that's my experiments.
I do it worse on my desktop. There's a delete folder.
Yeah.
And it's got like all this important stuff in it. You know? I'm just gonna delete this. I'll call it delete.
Exactly. So this is the same scene again that Cooper showed. We're lacking the disco light, so I apologize for that.
Dude.
But apart from that, you see it's pretty much the same file. What you want to make sure if you go out to Unity, you want to set the skinning method to simple bones, single skin. If you have one of the two up here, like I said, these are super powerful, but that's not actually what exports well. So
it's all the parametric stuff.
They have parametric stuff, driven keys, everything you can imagine under the sun. Multiple, each axis has its own weight map. Very cool, but doesn't translate well. Yeah. So switch it to simple bone, single skin before you export, because then you actually see how it will bend in your target environment. And if there are any bending problems here, you can touch them up. Our tools for touching up the bending, they're really simple and easy to use. So you can salvage things if they're not quite right yet. So from that point on, you go to export. There's a collage option. In this case, I want animation, so I need to select the frame range that I want to export. I don't need the lights because I only care about the asset. I need the camera, but if I wanted to, I could get that across as well. Make sure that everything for the figure here is selected. And then I wanted to select meters because that's the unit in Unity. Poser's unit is bigger, so things tend to look very small if you don't make that adjustment. You want normals in this case. What's very important is including the rigging. It actually says here, you wouldn't see the animation otherwise. On a bake morph targets, going forward, I hope we can get the morph targets across proper. I was part of a research project where that kind of worked, but I hope with the stuff now in Unity 4.3, that'll work better out of the box. For now, we just bake them and kind of preserve the state. If you made the figure very skinny or very thick, then this is what allows you to bake that shape when you go out.
Right. Yeah. The 4.3.1 now has blend shapes.
Right.
So,
right. So that's
awesome. So when you guys get your FBX exporter, crank it on. Yeah.
And the important thing is what we haven't shown yet. There's ways of, for example, lip syncing. You can get facial animation across two audio files, and that's typically implemented as blend shapes. So morph targets in the Poser world. So if you wanted to get the talking figure across from Poser into Unity, then you want animating blend shapes, and that, like I said, is just about become possible.
Right. So
And there's a couple optimizations in here. Unity's gotten pretty tolerant, I think, but if you go out, you might want to shrink down the textures and force them to power off to the game engine oftentimes.
I always export at the largest size possible, and then you can modify how Unity imports.
You could do that as well. True. Yep. So that was pretty much it.
Okay.
I exported the Collada file. I would then go in, import a new asset.
Was that how you do it? I always export to my target directory.
Really? Okay. Well, I guess that's easier. You're right. See, that's where my
Yeah.
workflow is a little.
Well, and that's what I was talking about with the materials directory, it automatically shows up as you have an FBX.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the new imported chunk.
So let me try this again. I hope it came across. Yeah, I think it works.
Yeah.
So the next step is like tying the input to him so when he gets shot, he does that dance, right?
Exactly.
Where's the victory dance?
Well, we've got bullet dynamics, bullet physics, so you could do, I mean, we don't have it tied to the ragdoll, but you could indeed have an impact on the character, bake that into the animation, and then bring it across as well.
Right, and you can blend that animation into this animation with Unity.
Right.
So
Have you guys tried that? Have you tried to get two animations, like a run and then this crazy dance? And you take the two animations and using the new animation tools, blend them back and forth?
I've not tried that, but yes, that would be great. That's kind of the model that we would want to support. The pitch would be make your sequences in Poser, export them all out, and then use.
Look, here's the dude who's walking, now he's running, now he's jumping, you know.
Yeah.
We actually have some underutilized features in Poser to have, you can specify bits of animation to be named ranges and do things. Back in the day, we worked with the Viewpoint Media Player when in its early days, about 13, 14 years ago. So we actually had animation features built in Poser just to export that kind of interactivity into what was then the Viewpoint Player. And actually, Unity, I think, was a small little competitor back then.
13 years, no, Unity wasn't anything.
Nothing.
No,
They came in the mid-2000s or whatever. But anyway, so we have some features that really are underutilized now, and that's why we're trying to.
One of the great places,
Yeah.
one of the great places where we saw that come into play was in this product called Adobe Atmosphere, and it was their first attempt at an avatar system driven by servers, and you could have supported chat. So like Poser was used for the authoring, and would create animation sets that could be triggered by Java actions. So it was
like 93 or?
no, it was later than that. It was like 2001.
2001 to 3.
Was it?
Yeah. Do you know Bruce Gamer? Or Michael Kaplan?
Michael Kaplan, that sounds so familiar.
Yeah, they were all involved in that. It's
I know there's a guy in Second Life, I know they use a lot of stuff.
Yeah, in Linden Labs, yeah.
Because of the FBX, we don't not only import FBX like Cooper showed, but we also export it. So a lot of people use Poser to get their animations made and then into Second Life. But that was last decade, so now it's all about Unity.
That's right, yeah, well, who knows what's next, right? We just keep doing what we're doing.
Any other questions?
Do you see more of a market developing for like games and third-party people making stuff for Poser, that low poly stuff that would be more targeted for games? Because you said there was some in the store, but maybe not that much.
Well, historically, we've been around a long time, and there was just, through the years, there were very little marketplace for interactive gaming, and the Unreal game engine was $250,000 for license, and that was the domain of game engines, and now things have changed. The last 3 years, the market's really changed, and there is a significant, indie gaming and interactive displays and all these things that are possible now that didn't exist 5 years ago.
And you guys have.
Let's think about how important it would be, though, if you didn't have to even care about the content's resolution because you had smart decimation built into the application. At that point, then you could take a character, regardless of how complex it was, reduce it down to whatever the poly count was that was going to be meaningful for your game, and then you could take like that Mediterranean village and that attractive-looking Mickey character, or whatever, put them into a scene and not to worry about like shopping around for the most economical character. So frankly, I think that would be a more meaningful thing to do than to have to pick and choose like from the hundreds of characters out there, to pick and choose 2 or 3 that were low poly. It would be much more meaningful, I believe, to be able to take any character and then reduce it down and preserve what you need for playback. So,
I agree with that, and I'd say we need like a level of detail tool.
Yeah.
So you can output the different Polygon versions, so like when it's closer to the camera, you can.
Well, it's just SDS, right? I mean, that's, I think what David's asking is there a marketable whole for real-time models in your, you have kind of a store or some kind of.
We have an enormous store, which is actually showing it right now.
Right.
So like,
Is that what you were asking? Like, hey, what if I make real-time models? Because you think I can make some money?
yeah, absolutely, there's an
So
opportunity.
there's a marketplace now in the puzzle world. A lot of people, this is their living, they make puzzles.
Yeah, there's people paying their mortgages building poser content.
So, and
But
it's a matter
it's
of,
competitive though, it's not a no-brainer.
Like, the stuff are pretty low, so is that, they have to go for
Volume.
volume?
Yeah. So like the example here of this tune stuff that Lily's focusing on right now, interesting, intriguing, timely story. The NORAD Santa that got all the bad press because it was being escorted with fighter jets and stuff, that's all poser content. That's all the animations are being done in poser, the village, the reindeer, Santa feeding the reindeer, all that stuff is all actually this content right here. So, you know, and this stuff is actually pretty low poly count. This is kind of cartoonish, so it doesn't need to have a real high density to it.
and a lot of it is supply and demand, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the traditional poser audience valued higher resolution meshes and textures, so that's what the content creators produce.
Yeah.
Now that we provide a new outlet for those people, the skilled content creators that are good, they'll produce what the market is looking for, and if there's a lot of demand for low poly models, I'm sure they will be produced.
Do you guys support subdivision?
Yes, we have, here's our subject.
Yeah, we have the open subdiv.
So I bring a big ugly cage, you guys can subdiv it nicely?
So subdiv was new in our last release, so that's the first pass of it is in there now, it's working. We'll add more features to it as we go forward. Open subdiv is gonna be a big thing because it's gonna get integrated in everywhere.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it's gonna.
Oh, that's what you were talking about, you know, being able to choose the resolution.
Right. That's actually a bad example because it has these really weird.
Yeah, this model is not,
It's not made.
you know, subdiv models are really built to be subdivided like that.
Right.
Pixar anecdotally commented after seeing how we did how the implementation was built, that they thought it was actually a really, really elegant way of integration. They were very, very pleased to see that.
They didn't even know we did it. They
Yeah.
I mean, they put it out there open source, but we didn't even need help or anything.
Yeah, so that's a great demo right there of showing how much resolution you can gain.
So, yeah, that's nice.
So that's not what you export to a game, but yes, it's
So the modern graphics sports that are coming out, you're gonna start seeing, you know, real-time open subdiv with displacement mapping, all happening in real time.
Do you,
Modern boards can do that.
Do you guys support displacement and?
Yes.
We do have displacement, it's not actually combined with subdiv yet. It will when you render.
So the renderer picks it up?
The render picks it up, but not the real time.
But you could export the displacement maps if you have a renderer in another package. Yeah.
We have normal maps as well.
We support normal mapping. We have like 3 or 4 different kinds of normal mapping techniques.
Yeah.
Cool. And super techy, how many UVs per?
There's only one material layer. You can, yeah, we do not have multiple UV sets per material.
No, people do. I mean,
No,
it's
it gets really complicated with the models. But you can reapply UVs, so you can change that.
right.
That is something we need to put on our to-do list.
This with the aquarium cephalopod thing, we're gonna have 4 UVs, and we're like,
One mesh for you.
I mean, people do have some other ways of solving that problem. We have a very sophisticated shading editor, so you can get the same effect.
do it
But
across dissolve.
If you're using algorithmic textures, the procedural textures, then that's not a problem.
No range, right? Yeah.
So those you can combine at different levels, but yeah, we do not have multiple UV sets. Glad you asked. We want to hear about the things we don't know.
Yeah.
That's what-
Well, it's just stuff that I'm thinking about right now. It's like, you know, I wouldn't have asked that 3 months ago.
I think you just mentioned about like substance designer, algorithmics, like
Right.
real-time shaders, does that work?
So yeah, we do. Most of the shaders in the shader network will work in the real-time display. There are a few that stress it out, so it's not exactly accurate. But for the most part, they work. And then in the render, there's a combination render-man-like renderer with full displacement mapping, and then there's a ray tracer, ray tracing system built in as well for all the subsurface scattering effects. And we've got radius caching, built into renders. You get some very realistic looking renders if you give it time.
Can you close his mouth? I mean, it's like he's misbehaving.
You want to show them the shader editor or just?
Sure.
Um,
Would you want to close the mouth to see the shaders?
Yeah, let me close his mouth first, then show the shaders.
All right.
Something in there we shouldn't see? No, I just want, it's like really cool to see, he's got this really cool model in there, and it's just cool to see him move. I just love seeing him move.
You don't know where to go.
Chest marks, there you go.
Actually, let me see if we can. Oops. Here we go. That's better.
That's good.
Is this the Congo mode that you're on?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you move the price of the film, pricing.
Actually, let me start.
It's got a lot of
Yeah,
sensitivity.
You can actually tweak that.
Yeah.
Someone will go.
But see, that's all, I think that's a morph target, I don't think that's a very good
Yeah, it
place
is.
for it, yeah.
There we go.
There you go. And the characters have limits as well too that we build in, so you can actually make that guy talk if you want.
Yeah, we can actually, with the mouth open moves and whatnot, you can actually lip sync to that. So I could load up an audio track and wire it up with the morph targets, and then the alligator mouth would open and close as the.
Can you do lip movements too?
Yes, if the one is prepared for it.
Yeah,
The humans have movement, right? They have like articulated tongues.
But you guys read visings and all that stuff?
Yeah, we have a full set of visings that are produced as morph targets that are then tied to a talk designer, and there's a map that occurs between the spoken word file and then the various visings.
Yeah, we can.
Can you read, can you input audio and it'll generate?
Yeah, yeah. Get you above the 90% point. You want to do some hand tweaking after it? Yeah. And you can type in a keyword, like you can type in the actual spoken phrase, and it supports, I think, like 6 different languages as well, too. Yeah.
Is that still like?
Yeah, maybe it's still alive. It actually was written for pleasure. Yeah. They were in North Carolina, UNC. Somebody's cars.
Yeah, it's used that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what sells me. I don't think that changed.